So today, students, we are going to discuss water resources, grade 10. So please keep this in mind. This chapter will be assessed only in periodics. So in your periodic exam, this chapter will be assessed, and the map work will be assessed in your term 1 exam. So please keep this in mind. So what are resources now? So in this chapter, we have discussed resources which are very useful. All those things which are very useful, those who have utility, they are called resources, and water as a resource we have to discuss, which is very much essential for the survival. So if we see water, life is dependent on water, then it is required for agriculture, in industries, for domestic purposes. So many uses are there of the water. Now the 3/4 of the earth's surface is covered with water. So this much surface of the earth is covered with water, but the small proportion is there for the fresh water. Very less percentage is there for the fresh water, and the 3 fresh water sources which we have is precipitation, that is the rainfall. From rainfall we obtain the fresh water. Then the surface water runoff is there in the rivers and lakes, that is a source of fresh water, and the underground water, that is the groundwater. So water which is stored in underground aquifer, so that is your groundwater. So these are the basically 3 sources of fresh water: rainfall, then after that the surface runoff in lakes and rivers, and then underground water. After this, now we have to discuss the water scarcity. Water scarcity, that is the lack of sufficient availability of water resources. When there is a lack of sufficient availability of water resources to meet the demand, that is called water scarcity. So this is a problem which requires the urgent need. The need is there to solve this kind of problem, water scarcity. So we have to go for the water conservation, that is the need of the hour. So now we have to discuss the causes of the water scarcity. So what can be the causes of the water scarcity? First of all, growing population. The needs are increasing, more population. So due to the growing population, more need is there. So there is a water scarcity. Then if we see the commercialization of agriculture, if we see that more and more the farmers, they are going for the crops which are water intensive, like paddy and all. So these are water intensive crop, and HYVCs, farmers are using the inputs as HYVCs, excessive fertilizers and pesticides, and HYVCs require more irrigation also. So in order to have bumper crop for the commercialization of agriculture, farmers are going for these kind of crops. So again, the water scarcity is there. If you see, the underground water level has reduced to a large extent because of this reason only. Then after that, industrialization, if you see, so much water is required in the industrial processes. Then in power generation, these industries require power also. So there also the water is required. Urbanization. So if urbanization is happening in urban area, also the demand is more, the pressure is more of the population. So the scarce resources, again the pressure is more. Then over exploitation we are doing in the rural and the urban area of this limited water resources. So this is how unequal access is there of the water resources. If you see in our society, the unequal access is there. Some rich people, they are having the swimming pools in their homes, and some poor people, they have to walk miles in order to fetch water for drinking purposes and for the domestic use. So unequal access is there. Commercialization of agriculture, urbanization, industrialization, growing population. So all these are the causes, you can say, which leads to the water scarcity. So we were discussing the chapter water resources, and now we have to discuss the adverse effects of overexploitation of the underground water resource. So this we have to discuss, that now continuously we are overexploiting our resource, our underground water table. So now what will be the repercussion, what are the effects? So obviously there will be fall in the underground water table if continuously we are overexploiting our resources. Then it will adversely affect our water availability. So it will affect our water availability also, and in turn it will affect our agriculture sector, and it will put a question mark on our food security also. So if water availability will not be there, then again the water intensive crops cannot be grown, then the food security cannot be ensured, the availability of food cannot be ensured to the especially to the poor section of our society. Then it will affect the ecological cycle, the balance, the environment. So it will affect the ecological cycle also somehow. Now the causes of the water pollution. So what are the causes? So domestic waste is the one cause. So the human activities are also responsible. Domestic waste, then the industrial waste, then after that the chemical effluents from the industries, the warm water is discharged, which is filled with the chemicals into the water bodies. It affects the aquatic animals also. So the proper the treatment should be done of this kind of water before discharging into the water bodies, as it affects the aquatic life also and the water body also. Vicinity also it affects. From agriculture also the chemical effluents they got discharged into the water body. So that also affects human activities, like our religious sentiments are attached. During Ganesh Chaturthi we have seen this thing, lot of idols are immersed into the water body. So this causes a lot of water pollution. So these are the causes basically of the water pollution. So now the next topic is measures for water conservation. What measures can be taken for the water conservation? So the need of the hour, we need to conserve water. So we should not overdraw the groundwater. So we should not overdraw the groundwater, rather recharge it by techniques like rainwater harvesting. So this we can do. Tapping the rainwater in the reservoirs. So this we can do. So we have to recharge our underground water resources also by the technique of rainwater harvesting and tapping the rainwater in the reservoirs. So we should not overdraw the groundwater. Rather than going for water intensive crop, the farmer can go for high value crops, like they can go for mushroom, polyhouses, drip irrigation. So these are the solution. Then avoid wastage of water at all the levels and do not pollute the water. So we should not pollute the water, and we should avoid the wastage of the water. Okay, it should not be that the taps are running and we are having a very careless attitude towards that. So we should be very careful. We have to conserve our water resources. Then what else we can do? We can go for water conserving techniques in our agriculture. For irrigation, like drip irrigation we can go, which is used in the polyhouses, in the open fields also. Sprinkler system, especially in the dry areas, we can go for these kind of irrigation techniques, rather than going for the crops which are water intensive, which require more irrigation. We can go for other kinds of crop, the high value crops. Medicinal herb is there. So these kind of crops will conserve our water. So now we have to discuss the dam. Earlier we have discussed some of the measures of the water conservation, rainwater harvesting. We have seen irrigation techniques like drip irrigation. So we should not overdraw the underground water level, or we should not reduce it. We can go for other irrigation techniques which will conserve the water. Drip irrigation is there, sprinkler is there. Then after that, the dams. How we can conserve water in dam also. So it is a barrier across flowing water. A barrier is created that will obstruct, direct or retard, reduce the flow, creating a reservoir-like structure or a lake or a impoundment. A catchment is created, a barrier is created, river is flowing, a barrier is created which creates the reservoir or a catchment, impoundment or a lake. So dam is a reservoir basically, and not the whole structure, because in dam other things are also there, turbines are also there, floodgates are there. Then the floodgates, when they are open, then the water comes and it rotates the turbine, and then energy is produced which is sent to the feeder, and then electricity is supplied to the homes for the domestic purposes and for industrial purposes. So in this way we can create dams and the multi-purpose river valley projects. So Pandit Nehru called the multi-purpose river valley projects as the temple of modern India. So he declared that the multi-purpose river valley projects, they are the temple of modern India. Now, why he said so? Because in this, the integrated water management will be there, integrated water management resources will be used. In this way, it will lead to the national development and progress. So, the production of electricity will be there, and water can be used. After that, it can be channelized to the canals for irrigation purposes. So in this way industries will also run and agriculture will also get the ample water supply. So in that sense, national development will be there of the, if industrial growth is high, agriculture growth is high, national development will be there and progress will be there of the economy. And then if irrigation facilities are assured, because earlier you have seen the Indian farmer still was dependent on the monsoon. But now if assured methods of irrigation are there, then it will help in the development of agriculture. And if prosperity come in the agriculture, automatically it will help in the village economy. So village economy will also get a boost. Then after that, economy, agro-based industries will also get a boost. So rapid industrialization will happen. So if water availability is there, power generation is there, so a lot of power will be given to the industries. Industrialization process will also accelerate, and the growth of urban economy will also be there. So that's why in that sense Pandit Nehru called multi-purpose river valley projects as a temple of the modern India. So now we have to see the advantages of multi-purpose river valley projects. So what are the advantages of constructing or creating the multi-purpose river valley projects? So it will ensure the supply of water to those areas where water scarcity is there. So if we create this kind of projects, then the water availability will be ensured to the water scarce areas. Then similarly, water will be provided for irrigation through canal irrigation will be provided. Then after that, they also help in the flood control. So the reservoirs are created and they help in flood control, and the water is controlled there in the reservoir if excess rainfall is there, and it will help in controlling the flood, and the nearby villages they will not be flooded with the water if the structures are created like this. The dams and the multi-purpose river valley projects are created. Then obviously generation of power. One of the most important advantages, generation of power. So these multi-purpose river valley projects, they generate the hydroelectricity power, and hydroelectricity they generate and they help in industrialization. Then boost is given to the agriculture, irrigation facilities are provided. They also help in recreation. Okay, so they also provide the tourism. So many people they visit to see the dam structure. So recreation also, the recreation sites, it can also be used as. Inland navigation is promoted. So the inland navigation, the waterways within the domestic region, that can also be supported here. And the fish breeding. So many people they can go for this kind of economic activity, especially those who are near to the coastal area. Fish breeding can be done for ample of seafood availability is there. So these are some of the advantages we have discussed of the multi-purpose river valley projects. So now we have to talk about the disadvantages of the multi-purpose river valley projects. So in this, the first is regulation, or the regulating or the damming of the river affects the natural flow of the stream. So obviously if we create a barrier, if we obstruct something, the natural flow of the river will be obstructed in this. So it will affect the natural flow of the river. Then after that, if the natural flow is obstructed, then the excessive sedimentation will be there. In that reservoir only, the excessive sedimentation will be there at the bottom. So this will make the stream bed more rockier. So more sedimentation, all the sediments will settle down at the bottom. It will make the stream bed of that reservoir more rockier. Then if this is excessive sedimentation is there, then it will lead to the poor habitation for aquatic life. They won't be able to migrate. Migration will also be stopped, and they will not be able to reproduce also. Reproduction problem will also come for the aquatic. Aquatic life will also be affected, and for the aquatic fishes and all this marine life which is available there, the poor habitat and the migration problem and reproduction problem will start. Then the submergence of the existing vegetation and the soil. So whichever existing vegetation is there, wherever the reservoir is created, so where there the vegetation will be submerged, and the soil there also, the soil will also be submerged there. And sometimes we have seen that these structures, they are unsuccessful in controlling flood when lot of rainfall, excessive rainfall is there. Then these kind of structure, they trigger the flood. So when the floodgates are opened, they exceed the limit, lot of rainfall is there, and the dams, they are also overflowing, so they have to open the gates, and that time the water gushes into the villages, and it make over flooding there in the villages, crops destroy, house and property, animals, this will destroy, floods will come, and then after that the waterborne diseases will spread in the area. So many problems are associated with these dams. Lot of criticism, people, they are opposing these kind of structures, lot of criticism is there because of these drawbacks. And then the most important point here, why the lot of criticism is there of these modern structures, because of the large scale displacement of the communities, of the people who lose their lands, livelihood, their homes because of the nation's good. So the construction of the dam might be good for the farmer and the industrialist point of view. It may be development for them, but it may not be development for the people who are displaced from that land, because this is unfair share of the sacrifice which these communities they have to go through. Then after that, so that's why lot of opposition is there of these projects. Then irrigation, lot of irrigation, the farmers, they are going for the water intensive crop because of the irrigation, short irrigation facilities are provided due to these structures. So again, the many problems are associated with this also. Land degradation is there, then salination is increasing, water logging is happening in the fields. So excessive fertilizer farmers are using, it affect the fertility of the soil because of the short irrigation facilities are available. Then the farmers have changed the cropping pattern only. As I told you, they are going only for the water intensive crops, paddy and all this. So due to this, the social landscape has also transformed of the rural area, if you see. Why? Because the rich landlords, the rich farmers, they are able to harness all the benefits of these irrigation facilities, and they have prosperous. And 80% of the Indian farmers, small and marginal farmer, again, they are still dependent on the monsoon. They are still dependent on the monsoon and the natural fertility of the soil. So it has changed the social landscape also, transformed the social landscape also. The richer has become more richer, they have prospered, and on the other hand, the poorer, they have become more poor. Then conflicts will start. Because the conflicts, many a time we have seen the conflict starts like many states are there, they have a dispute over the water issues. Many time we have seen, like over the Kaveri water issue, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu continuously they are in dispute that who will share the water of the rivers. So this kind of dispute arises, and sometimes the dispute arises in the Sabarmati basin. We have seen the dispute arise in the Gujarat where the water was provided for the urban purposes, and then farmers, they started rioting, they started agitating because they need water for their irrigation purposes. So these kind of conflict starts, and then it also leads to the social movement where so much people they got associated, like we have seen Narmada Bachao Andolan. So these kind of movements started in 1985 because of the main drawback, because of the displacement of the local community. So loss of agricultural land, loss of vegetation, flora, fauna of that area. So it affects so many NGOs also, the environmentalists also, human rights activists also, they got attached with this kind of mass agitations, and these kind of movements are then launched on the mass scales. So the social movement, Narmada Bachao Andolan, and in 1993 the World Bank has taken back the grant from this project after the movement was launched. So these all are the disadvantages of the multi-purpose river valley projects. So one of the most viable, economically feasible, the method of conserving water is rainwater harvesting. So this is one of the most viable option which is available when so much resistance we have seen to the river valley projects, to the dams. So this is more viable option. So in this different methods are used at different places, like gulls and pools in the Himalayan mountains. This kind of structures are used. in which the circular well is created at the top of the mountain for the collection of the water, and then after that for whatever purposes the water is required, irrigation, and it can be utilized. So pools are created in the mostly in the western Himalayas. Then khadins and johars, so these are created in the Jaisalmer in the Rajasthan. In the agriculture fields only, the farmers they create the rain-fed storage structures. So the structure is created in the agriculture field only, and it will be filled with the water. So this will keep the soil more moist. Okay, so moisture will be available in the soil if this kind of structures are created. And then after that, bamboo drip irrigation. So this system we have seen in the Meghalaya 200 old year system, in which the bamboo drip irrigation is used from the source. The channels are made with the use of the bamboo. So bamboo is called poor man's timber also. So with the bamboo, the channels are made from the source till the fields wherever we want to irrigate. So from there, the water which is irrigated, drop by drop the water reaches to the field. So this is one system, the bamboo drip irrigation, but here the lot of wastage of water is there in the bamboo drip irrigation. Then after that, inundation channels. So these are created in the floodplains of West Bengal. So whenever the rivers they are overflowing, when the flood is there, so these kind of channels are created so as to harness the flood water efficiently, channelize the flood water efficiently. Then this is the rooftop rainwater harvesting. Again, this kind of methods are available. Mostly these are utilized in Bikaner, Rajasthan. So people used to create tankas and in the underground, or it can be open also. And then after that, on the rooftop through pipes they used to connect it with the tankas. So usually the first rain shower is not collected, and after that the subsequent rain showers they are collected, and all the water is stored in the tankas. And this is a more reliable source of drinking water for the people of Rajasthan, because the rainwater is the purest form of the water. So they used to call them palar pani. And then after that, it beat, these kind of structure beat the heat also, because if this kind of structure is there in the house where the water is stored, so somehow it will relieve the people of the heat, so it will beat the heat also. So this was some of the methods we can go for the rain harvesting, rooftop rainwater harvesting systems. Tankas can be created. Then after that, Gendathur model we have to see. In Gendathur model, it is in Mysore and Karnataka. The 200 households they have made their own this rooftop rainwater harvesting systems. They have installed in their homes. 200 households are there. They have installed this water harvesting systems in their homes, and then after that 1000 millimeter of rainfall this village receives annually, and 80% collection efficiency is there of this village, and 50,000 liter of water they store. Each household store this much of the water, which can be utilized for different purposes. And Tamil Nadu is the state which has made rainwater harvesting as a mandatory, that the model, each house should have this kind of model. So these kind of practices are there to conserve the water.